Let me start with a thank you with the last slide to give you a thank you for joining, for using this technology, Istio, for using Kiali to see this technology. And also on top of what Pedro said, you know, if all what we are going to do with this this workshop is public, is well documented. So if you cannot finish today the workshop because it's late for your time zone, or you want to continue another day, we are also in the Kiali room in the Istio Slack. And as all developers from our old generation, we use IRC as well. So you can find us in the Istio Slack Kiali room, or if you use IRC, we also love IRC, and we are in the Kiali room on the free note to that, right? So yeah, thank you all for attending. So okay, let's start. What we are going to do, what you would expect with this demo. So what we are going to do is to install Kubernetes and Istio cluster. We are going to deploy demo applications beyond the hello world, beyond the book info, right? We want to do something a little bit more complex that can simulate more what could be a more realistic situation, a more realistic scenario that you may have, or the reason that you are investigating or using Istio, right? You have some real applications, real problems, and you want to see, okay, what are the next steps, how I can start using this technology, right? How we will do, I will be using the Google Cloud Platform to create a cluster for me, because it's quite straightforward. I'm a developer, it's quite straightforward with your Gmail account, just to enter in the console, create a cluster. But the documentation is completely agnostic of the platform. I think that the documentation is very well documented how you can do the very same with Minikube, but other platform is perfectly fine, you know, to use. So the workshop resources, what will we use? So we are going to use the Istio.io getting started. So we are going to say, okay, you are landing into the technology. I guess that if you are here, at least you have performed this step before, right? We are going to change some steps from the getting started. For example, we are not going to use the Istio CTL dashboard. We are going to publish or expose the Kiali service through the Ingress gateway. We are going to show how to do that, right? How to do that in efficient. All the use cases that we are going to show, and also in the Kiali.io tutorial. So you enter into the Kiali.io, and you will see all what we are going to do is oh, sorry. Oh. Okay. So feel free to navigate, use the slides to click into the URLs, right? This is basically all that we are going to do, step by step, explaining this, stopping on each step, trying to answer your questions, right? And let you to understand basically the Istio technology in a visual manner. That is what is the goal of this tutorial. Okay, platform choice. So I'm going to follow all the steps with the Google Cloud, the Google Cloud platform. Why? Because I'm a developer, I have a Gmail account, and to me this is the easiest way. So I have a project. I guess that you also have a project. It's quite easy to get a project in Google. Is this the first time? I think that, sorry, disclaimer, I'm not an expert in this platform, but at least as a developer, if you're the first time that use it, probably you will have some kind of free budget for using, which could be pretty much enough to run all the tutorial. If someone would need an additional project, to share a project, just let us know offline, and we can try to enroll someone else into one of the demo projects to do that, right? But this is what we are going to do. Okay, so let me see. Okay, here. So this is the only specific step that it depends on the platform. I don't know which box do you have. So in one of the steps, we want to create, as I said at the beginning, a more complex application beyond the book info, right? So we want to use real, or something that is close to a real DNS, because we want to set up different hosts, because, you know, the gateways can be change discriminated by the host resolution, right? We want to simulate that. So when we design this workflow, we have two options. One is to use real DNS, like we can do in the Google Cloud Platform, but that's not a problem, but it takes to refresh the cache and refresh the Google servers, the DNS servers, it takes something of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I thought that could be could make the workshop a little bit more boring, waiting to have a DNS resolution. So instead to use a published DNS, we are going to use local DNS, updating the etc host, right? And the etc host is a mechanism that is valid for Linux operating system, macOS, right, or Windows, right? So if you are not familiar with these steps, just let us know in the chat, and we will help you just how to do that, right? This is the only requirement that you may need, right? Also to change that from the very same place that you're going to open your browser, right? So if in case that you have some Bastion machine which you are using to do something, remember that this is to resolve from your browser, right, a specific URL, right? This is what we are going to do. Okay, so what is the agenda? What is the purpose to do in this 2.5 hours, right? So first we are going to prepare a Kubernetes and Istio cluster, pretty much following the getting started, but with some additional change, like exposing the add-ons from the gateway instead to use the kubectl for forwarding, which is the standard way used by IstioCtl command. We are going to deploy a more realistic application than the book info, which is called the Lens Traverse Demo. We are going to deploy without mess, just without, like in a real scenario. I have an existing application, I deploy to my cluster, right? The next thing that we are going to do is to describe what could be the first steps, right? To incrementally adding and rolling my workloads into the mess and see what are the features, the capabilities that Istio is providing me, right? And how I can see these features into Kiali. The next thing that we are going to do is to learning what Kiali can do for you, what information Istio is collecting in a low level, metrics, tracing, logs, configuration, and how Kiali can abstract that way. I can show you all this information all together in a way which is easier to you to understand what the cluster is doing, what the service mesh is behaving, so what potential problems may have, right? And also, we want also to have time to give you some hints on very powerful feature that Kiali can give you, for example, to query your cluster to see, hey, which is the slower path, which is something where should I put my focus when I have a highly populated set of workloads to do that. The next thing that we are going to do is to practice the Istio features, right? But using Kiali, right? You are going to send me, I guess that I think that you are all the, if you are watching all the IstioCon conference, you can tell me that you have seen a lot of YAML files. So you will see me that in this workshop probably will be the only conference or session where with the less YAML file text that you are going to read. I can tell you, we are going to do all the steps, or most of the steps, we are going to do through Kiali in a visual way, right? How to shoot that. Right? Last, if we have time, so we also try to progress into the more security, more advanced scenario to do that. As commented, all the steps are in the tutorial URL. So it's something that you can do in your own rhythm. You can try to follow by your own. You can watch me or just to attend the explanation that we are going to do that. I'm going to start from the scratch, right? So I guess that you can enjoy. So any question, let us know in the QA, in the chat, or how Pedro has commented. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is the prepare a Kubernetes and Istio cluster. So we are going to use the Istio.io platform setup and the getting started. As I don't want to teach you how to browse this documentation, I prepared a workshop cheat sheet in this URL. So if you open it, it's basically the very same thing, but in a way which is more easier and faster just to create a cluster, right? Like open the console cloud google.com with your Gmail account. Okay, I have that. The next step, what we are going to do is to create a project. If I have not a new project, so it's something that I can do here, a new project. I have started this for me. Right, so you have an existing project, that's okay. And what we are going to use is activate the Cloud Shell, because in this way we are going to skip all the installation steps or the troubleshooting for if you don't have installed kubectl command, or if you have a different version of Helm, or etc. So this Cloud Shell is quite powerful in order to, when you are running this kind of workshop, because you avoid all the troubleshooting if the path is correct, and etc. Okay, I have it. I was crossing fingers because I told Pedro the only thing that I cannot ensure is that the Google is down. So, but this thing that now is responding, right? So I have my share, right? Yeah, what we are going to do is to prepare a Kubernetes cluster using the specific platform setup for Google Cloud Engine, describe it in Istio. So basically, I'm just copying the same, just to save you some time when browsing that. So I can get this export and I can copy it on my shell, on my cloud shell. And what it's going to do is populate a cluster, right? I'm just taking the default zone. Okay, so in this step is quite basic, as you can see. We are going to check that the cluster is correct. In case that you have a Linux box and you want to do that with Minikube, in the step 1 2b, from the cheat sheet, you can also to get the very same thing, but for a Minikube box. Okay. My cluster is being health checked. I guess it's today is faster than yesterday. Yesterday where I was doing some demo, it was running quite slow, but today it seems that it's okay. If you have already a cluster created, you can use it as well. So I think that what we are going to do is to generate new applications. So that is fine, right? But I think that what we are going to do from our side is to start from the scratch, just to show you all the steps. And in case that someone has any problem, we can help him or help her in a faster way. Okay. Master is healthy, that's good. Probably for people living in the US zone, this could be faster than me. You know, I'm from Europe. I'm from the Europe folks. Probably this could be a little bit more slower, but okay, I have it. So this is my cluster. I guess that more or less you can be on the same step. So what I'm going to do is to take the details, okay, it was generated, and I'm going to do a very basic cluster test to asking the nodes of my cluster. So a standard configuration for this cluster, following the steps from the Istio platform setup, is to create a 4 nodes cluster, which is more than enough for needs. Okay. So this is the step 1.a of this section. So in case that you are using Minikube, you can follow the 1.b. So what I'm going to follow now is to install Istio. So in this case, it's pretty standard. I know that there are a lot of options to install Istio, more optimization. We are going to use the most basic way to install it, right? Probably in a future session, if you like, we can try to to create another session for more advanced scenarios, installation scenario of Istio with Kiali. Right? So again, this cheat is just to save you to navigate from the Istio site. What we need to do is to download the Istio with this command. Right, we are going to use the Istio dash 1.9.0. So we are going to enter in the Istio folder. This is important, yeah, for people that are too fast, because the clouds, the cloud shell by default is shipping a IstioCTL, but an old one probably. So if you are, if you don't update your path and check the IstioCTL version, you may have an Istio 1.8, yeah, and that probably may have some strange behavior with if you want to use IstioCTL from an older version with another IstioCTL with a newer version deployed in the cluster, right? This is the only step, but again, this is what is documented in the Istio documentation. I say just to update the path to check that you are using the 1.9 version, right? And to install the demo profile is just in IstioCTL install set profile demo, right? This is what we are going to run to start installing the cluster. If some step I speak too fast because it's late for me and probably I run, so just let me know from the chat. Hey, Lucas, could you repeat or could you stop? That step was not fully clear. Yes, with we are doing a workshop. It should be typically we like to do that in on-site events to do that, but this time to be virtual is good because we meet with a lot of new folks. But yeah, in case of interaction, so just let me know. We'll be happy to clarify something. Okay, so after installing the demo profile, the next step is the typical. We are going to install the demo app, the book info, just to check that Istio is working correctly and we don't have anything strange from the platform, right? So in a nutshell, these are the two comments that we want to do, is to label the default namespace with the Istio injection enable in one comment. I'm going to clear my screen. And in the next comment, just to apply the typical book info. I'm quite sure that if this is not the first time that you install Istio, you have done this several times before, right? It's nothing new. Okay. Yeah, and then the next step that we do is to check the pods with -w to check, to wait until all the pods are in running status. Okay, reviews versus 3 is reviews is now up. Okay. We have 2 reviews, 1 details. I'm still missing the product page and also the ratings. Okay, we have the ratings and we have the product page. Okay, so the book info should be up now. So to test the demo check, we are going to run this command from inside a pod shell. So just to have a first check that the pods are okay, and yeah, it seems that the book info was successfully installed. Okay, so this is something that we are going to do a little bit different. So in this sheet, we have 3 steps. So in the steps 3, we are going to open the demo app to outside traffic. So this one, just take a look of the step, because is when we are going to change the way that we typically access to book info, and we are going to publish the book info also from the gateway with a host, right? So to do that, we are going to install the gateway. Remember, the gateway in Istio is the way to tell, okay, I want to expose a specific service through the gateway. So now this service is is ready to get traffic from outside of the cluster. But yeah, from outside of the cluster mean, okay, how I can access that? So then to do that, we need to in a real scenario, in a real world, I would ask to my network admin to tell, hey, for my new application, I knew a new DNS, I knew a new name for my new application. Then this will be the name that I'm going to access to this host. This is what we are going to simulate now, right? So in what we are going to need is to get the IP of your ingress. So just we can check which is the external IP of your ingress. Take a note that this may require some platform specific, depending on the platform that you are working. If you are in Google Cloud Platform, it's just the external IP of the Istio ingress gateway. Just to show you how I would update this, what are the next steps for my application in a real scenario. In a real scenario, with this IP, I tell to my admin guy or my network admin guy, so hey, I knew a new DNS, and the admin guy so go to the networking services, go to the cloud DNS, and probably he will access to a zone and will try to create a new entry with your IP. We are not going to do this for the workshop because, okay, this is quite simple. You need to have a public domain, and it's just to create a entry for your scenario. But instead to doing a public mode, because it takes 15-20 minutes to refresh all the servers, what we are going is to simulate that from your browser. So I'm in the cloud shell, but I'm going to open a shell from my Linux box. Okay, this is my machine where my browser is running, and what I'm going to do is to edit the etc host file. Right, this is the way that I'm going to simulate that I can resolve a host from my browser. Right. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to create a new entry with the IP of my ingress to the book info. In this case, we are going to use for the tutorial the DNS that we want to do. Right? We are going to put my IP. My IP is this one. Okay, let me to show that. It's book info Istio cluster. Okay, and you should have something like this, right? For your case, you need to update with your cluster ingress IP. This is mine, right? Once that we save this file, we can check that we can resolve the book info from my browser. Okay, I have the book info. It's not complex, but I can understand that and depending of the platform that you are running, Windows, Linux, Mac, this could be different. Okay, but this is book info, and I'm accessing through the ingress, but I'm not using the IP. I'm resolving the host, right? This is what we are going to do. Okay. Okay, that's good. So I think that we have Istio installed. We have the demo app. We check that the demo app is working. We expose the book info through the gateway. We link the ingress, the book info DNS that we can resolve from our box, and we explain how to do that in a public scenario. Okay, the next step that we are going to do is start installing the add-ons, right? We are going to follow the getting started documentation to install the add-on, just simply to copy paste and just to deploy the samples add-ons files that are shipped with Istio. Okay, so we can check the pods of the Istio system namespace. Okay, it was fast. You see that everything is running, which is good, right? Okay, now this is this step is different from the getting started. Here we are going to do something documented but different. So probably you will see that in the Istio there is a section which is in the observability test, which means we are going to expose the add-ons, in special Kiali, through the ingress, right? And we have two options to do that. We can do that in a very secure way or an insecure way, right? And one of the requirements that is asking you is to have a previous defined ingress domain. The ingress domain is like the IstioCluster.org that I choose to do that. So we are not going to create a public domain, but we are going to continue using the etc host mechanisms to simulate that I have a private domain, but I want to expose Kiali through the gateway. So what I should do? So again, I go to my etc host. I will repeat how I get here. So in my case, it's sudo b etc host, but you know, in the slides you have described how to do that in Macs or Windows. Okay, the same IP, because it's the same ingress service that I'm going to reuse. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to create another entry with the same domain. The domain that I'm using locally is called istio-cluster.org, but for Kiali. The very same thing, yeah? You can see it. Okay, same IP, because I'm using the same ingress IP, but for Kiali. So in this case, what I would like to do is to expose Kiali, not using IstioCTL dashboard, because remember, I'm using the Cloud Shell, which is in a Bastion machine of the Google Platform Cloud, but I want to expose it through the ingress to opening from my browser, right? This is the step that I'm doing, right? Okay, now that I have this entry, what I need to do in my Cloud Shell is to export this ingress domain variable. Okay, I'm using the istio.cluster.org. And remember, and the very same thing that I did for the book info was to create a gateway for the book info and a virtual service, basically to expose this service to the ingress, and also to redirect all this traffic that is coming from this host, from the ingress to this particular virtual service, also to connect to one, right? So we are going to do the very same thing. I'm just this is not new. This is also well documented in the Istio site. You know, in the how to expose the add-ons through the ingress. But in this cheat sheet is going to save you some time, right? Okay, I copy this. Okay, I generated the gateway, the virtual service, and the destination rule that Kiali didn't have. So I created this Istio objects. And now I should verify that from my browser, I can access to Kiali from kiali.istio.cluster.org. Okay, so if you are here, congratulations, because you have installed a cluster, you have installed Istio on top, we have installed the Bookinfo demo, and installed the add-ons, and now you have exposed Kiali through a public DNS. Okay, that's good. Most people are on this step. Let's to do a quick sync, and let me to drink some water, please. Okay, I guess no comments on the chat, so I guess that we are good. Okay, so let's continue. So we are going to start doing a Kiali hello world, right? We are going to start using Kiali in an efficient way to detect something that is saying to our scenario. So we open Kiali, and when we open Kiali, we land into the overview page. The overview page is telling me how many namespace I have enrolled into my mesh, how many namespaces are in my cluster. If this namespace, what are the labels that they have, right? And also I can see a first thing. You see what I'm seeing? That I have a couple of warnings here, because the Kiali has detected, you have here a default namespace, and I have here a couple of warnings. And also you have the namespace, and you have, I analyzed 3 istioconfig objects, but I have 1 warning. I'm going to start with the default one. If I click in the warning icon, I'm going to move to the istioconfig page. It's going to list all the Istio configuration that I have for this namespace. I can select one to many, right? I can select multiple namespace and also filter what could be the configuration with warnings, for example. And I'm going to check the Bookinfo gateway that it has a warning. And what is telling me? That, okay, I have a warning here in the host, that I have a wildcard, and Kiali is telling me, hey, you have more than one gateway for the same host ports combination. And if I click in the show overview, you're going to tell me, okay, you have the Bookinfo using the gateway and the Kiali gateway at the same time. If I click in the Kiali gateway, I see that, okay, the Kiali gateway has a host, but the Bookinfo gateway has a wildcard. What means? When I'm sharing the same IP, okay, when I'm sharing the same IP, I need to tell the Istio that, hey, you need to discriminate which request goes to Kiali and which request goes to the Bookinfo. That is the word of the English, right? So one of the basic ways to do that is to define the host. In this case, you see that the Bookinfo gateway, we changed the Bookinfo to use the Bookinfo IstioCluster.org. So this is the host that we need to update here into the gateway of the Bookinfo. We can do that from Kiali. I should put here, Bookinfo, IstioCluster. And this is the only YAML file that we are going to use on this workshop. If you expect it to deal with a lot of files on these 2 hours, no, this is no way. We are going to try to do everything in a visual way, in a more friendly way, right? So I save the gateway from Kiali. And now if I return to the overview, I see how the Istio configuration is now in green, saying that, okay, it's saying that everything is looking okay, right? So if I click into the Istio config, I can see all the Istio configuration that I have defined into the default and the Istio system. You know, the Istio system typically has more specific default for envoy filters, but typically this is what I would see in my application. So the virtual services, the gateways, or security objects are affected to these workloads. Okay, so if you are on this stage, so hello world to Kiali, welcome to these applications, and I think that we have completed the first step. Okay, so we are going to start the second point. Just let me know if I'm fast or I'm time. So use the chat to tell me any comment, and we can try to adjust. Right. So what we are going to do now is to deploy a new demo app. These demo applications consists in 3 namespaces and a set of microservices deployed on each namespace offers. We are going to deploy them just to copy and paste these instructions from the Kiali tutorial page and go to your Cloud Shell. Okay, I created the namespace. We are not going to label anything. So we are deploying the application, but we are not including or how to say in English, you are including or rolling in or connecting to the mesh yet. So we want to, to simulate a real scenario that you have some set of services on your Kubernetes cluster, and you also have installed Istio, and you want to, you want to learn how all these Istio feature works and to see what they are doing. So we deploy these applications. We can see how the pods of travel agency namespace are quite fast, are working. But let me to spend some minutes just to explain you the design of this application, how this application was designed. So we have a Travels demo that simulates 2 business domains that are organized basically in 2 namespaces. So from one namespace, what we call Travel Portal, we are going to deploy what we call several portal shops. Those are intended to be UI shops, right? When the user can search, can book flights, hotels, cars, insurance, or whatever they need. So one of the features that we wanted to design is that every shop can be hosted by different country and may have different type of needs. So at the end of the day, they may have different characteristics, like, okay, some countries are more focused on new users or existing user, on young customers, or more other kind of senior type of customers, or the channel to access could be just web or mobile, or or they may be interested in one type of traffic versus other, right? So the idea is that these shops can generate quite heterogeneous traffic, and we can, to prove how Istio can deal in this situation, right? So this is what the travel portal is going to simulate. These UI applications, one per country, with its own characteristics. These all UI services from the travel portal are going to talk with another namespace, what we call the travel agency, with basically a travel service. The travel service will be responsible to basically to tell, okay, what are the available destinations for Europe, right? These are all the offerings, and also to let a specific user to choose one destination, one travel. Hey, prepare a travel for Paris, prepare a travel for Berlin, for Lisbon, Madrid, etc., Rome, etc., right? So this travel service is in the travel agency namespace is going to be responsible to talk with one of many other backend microservices. For example, it could talk with flights, it could take with other microservices, with cars, to insurance. This depends on the type of the travel, and also depending on the user, it may be accessible to discounts and additional discount services. This is quite similar to some booking for logic, just to show you something more familiar. And the travels service will be responsible to collect all these quotes and build an offer, offer quotation that to be sent back to the portal shop, right? So this portal shop should be UIs, but for this case are simulators that are generating this random traffic to the travel agency, right? We have a third namespace, which is called travel control, that is going to work like a business UI, right? A business UI that is going to tell me how many shops I have, is going to tell me what is happening, what is request to these destinations, how they are flowing. To do that, in which destination are new, which portal shop is doing more requests, what the type of the users, type of device, type, and also in the left side of this UI is going to letting me to change the settings of this travel shop simulator. I can change the request ratio. I can simulate that one shop is faster than others, and I can see I can also to simulate that it generates one type of traffic to others. The idea of this is to add a little bit of more complexity, and also to try to add a little bit of more, information or something more that even if it's a demo app, but it can simulate more close or more realistic traffic that you may see in the scenario. Okay. Okay. So yeah, this is we have deployed application. I guess we should have all the workloads deployed in your cluster. So let's try to go to the first steps. I'm new in Istio, right? I have an existing application. So what I want to do is, okay, what next? What Kiali can tell me on this scenario? So if I go to my Kiali, probably you are going to see the same. I can see that the three new namespace generated: the travel agency, travel control, travel portal, right? But if I say, okay, that's cool, I would like to go to the graph. Okay, in the graph, I don't see anything. If I change the namespace, I don't see portal, I don't see control, right? What is happening? Why I don't see anything? So the answer is that I have deployed my applications into the cluster, but my applications are not yet into the mesh. So why I wanted to start this workshop with this scenario, because it's pretty common that when you are starting with Istio, so you may have a similar situation that, hey, I don't see what I expected. I don't see a graph. I don't see my workload in my graph. We may happen. So Kiali can tell you, for example, that in your applications, you have the missing sidecar. So just a little intro that Kiali is trying to collect all the information for your workloads from the Kubernetes API, the pods, the controllers, from the Istio telemetry, all the Prometheus low-level data collected from Envoys are collected and manipulated by the telemetry components, and also tracing information. If you have enabled tracing on your set, I'm going to fetch all this tracing signals, and I'm going to combine to you to show you this information. So this is pretty common, especially when I'm deploying something didn't work well. So I deployed the application, but the application was not connected to my cluster. So yeah, this application, I enter here, I have the workloads, I can click in a workload, they can tell me, hey, this workload is missing the sidecar, and I don't see here any Istio init container. Or this is just, for example, a warning that, hey, this pod has no Istio sidecar. It's going to work, but it's not connected with the mesh. It's not going to tell me additional information from that, right? Okay, so what are the next steps that we want to do? So, or what is something that typically we do is not to, one thing that is different from Bookinfo from this demo is that Bookinfo starts adding all the application into the mesh. So we want to do that in a incremental way, in an iterative way. So now, for example, as I described, I have a first UI, and I would like to put this UI, this service into the ingress, just to expose it to the external traffic. We are going to do that. So how I can enroll a namespace into the mesh, right? So I can go to the namespace, to the travel control, and I can click enable auto injection label. If I click in the label, I'm going to change my view. I can see all my namespace in a compact way, in a detailed view, or in a table view. And I can see that now the travel control has the Istio injection enabled, right? So what this means, when I add the label on the namespace, that means that the new deployments are going to be injected automatically in the sidecar. But what happened with the existing deployment? The existing deployments are not going to change. So the next thing that we are going to do is to go to the workload, to a system, sorry, only the travel control. Okay, we are going to the control workload, which is telling me that it's missing the sidecar, and we are going to tell, okay, I want to enable auto injection for this workload. Again, if I redeploy from kubectl command, automatically Istio is going to detect that the namespace is labeled, and I'm going to do this by me. So as this is an old workload, I need to enable manually the annotation to tell Istio that I want to put this workload into the mesh, right? So what it's going to do is that it's going to restart the pod. Now I will show me that I have a new pod, right? And it's green with the Istio container. Okay. Okay. Now I have the control workload, the control service exposed to the connected to the mesh. But now what I need to do is to expose to the demo traffic. So what I need when I want to expose an application, we need a DNS entry. So this is something that we are going to do. So the first thing that we need to go is to go to our network admin and tell, hey, I need a new entry, a new entry for my DNS, for my control application. This is something that we are going to simulate with our etc host, just to save time, because it takes some minutes to, and I'm going to create a new entry. Again, we are going to reuse the same ingress IP, because all the traffic is entered to my cluster by the Istio ingress gateway. So this is why we are using the same public IP. But on this case, we are going to change. We can use, for example, control, travel control, Istio cluster, or okay. I have my DNS entry, and if you remember what we need to do now, we need to generate the gateway, the virtual service, the destination rule. If I want more security configuration, I will need to generate additional Istio config files to add this security thing. So how Kiali can do that by me? So if remember that when we are adding Istio configuration, we are referring always to the services that we use, right? So we go to the service, to the control service in this case, and Kiali offers to you a set of high levels wizards to generate Istio high level service mesh scenario for you. So on this case, we are going to use for example, the request routing on the control service, and we are going to create a basic rule, a routing rule. So on this wizard, we have a first builder on the tabs, request matching. I want to match any request. We can route to all the traffic to the control workload. Forget for the moment the fault injection and request timeouts. We will come back this later, and I'm going to add the rule, right? Don't create it yet, because one thing that we want to do is, okay, now I'm creating this request routing rule, but I need a gateway to expose this routing to the outside traffic. So I can do that using the advanced options. I click in Shop Advanced Options. I go to Gateways. I can click Add a Gateway. I can select existing one or create a new one. I'm going to create a new one. And now here in the gateway host, remember what we did with the book info, with the Kiali. I need to tell that this is the travel control Istio cluster. Okay, so if this is correct, if I didn't typo anything, so no mistakes, and I click on create. So now Kiali is telling me that it's generating configuration for me from the service. I can see the workloads that are linked with this in the select of this service. This is the control workload, and also you can see the Istio config that has generated a first virtual service, a destination rule. If I click in the Istio config, I can see that Kiali has generated this virtual service, this destination, the destination rule for the control service, and also the gateway. Okay, let's test it. So go to a tab on your browser, control, travel control, Istio cluster org, and it is working. I guess that you should get this in your on your machine, right? Okay. Are people reaching to this step? I'm very fast, very low. Just let me know. Give me feedback in case that I'm fast, or if you want to see things more. Just water. Okay, so thank you for the feedback. Okay, so I guess that you can see the application now. You can play with the application, right? So if you go to the left, you can change the request ratio. You can do some workloads, some shops faster, and you can say the type of traffic. It doesn't matter. So you can play with it. As described in the documentation, this is a demo app that you can also to use it for your needs and collaborate if in case that you want to add any features. So pull requests are open as well. It's quite simple to work. Okay, so I think that we have this step. Okay, so let's go to Kiali. Now we have this the travel control service from the travel control namespace exposed through the ingress. Remember, we have the book info, we have Kiali, and we have now these other applications exposed through the ingress. So now Kiali, what is going to tell me? So if I go to the travel control namespace, it's going to tell me, okay, this looks okay. So, but if I select the other namespaces, it's going to tell me that, hey, you are still some missing sidecars on others workloads. This is quite normal and can be used for troubleshooting, because this is a pretty common situation that you're going to start deploying namespace, deploying applications, and probably at some point you may miss that some workload has not the proper sidecar for some reason, right? So Kiali can give you this information for you. If I go back to the graph, what's happened is that now the sidecar starts to collect telemetry, right? It starts to collect a lot of information. And what Kiali is doing is to collect all this data and try to show you in a graphical way, a representation. But I don't have, I have a mix of some of the workloads have sidecars, and Kiali is going to grab what it can show you, right? In this case, it's just I have some limited visibility of what the travel controls are doing, right? Okay, so I guess that we finished the step number 3. Let's continue with the steps number 4. I hope that everyone is following. Okay, you say, Lucas, you.
Hey, Lucas, there's
Yeah.
one question. There's one question just about the demo itself. When you're looking at the travel control page, wondering
Yes.
where are all these initial numbers coming from?
These numbers.
Yeah, like the traffic, the things that we see right now. It's
Okay,
not all
yeah.
0.
Good question. Yeah, in the yeah, thank you for guiding me. Yeah, in the design of this demo, remember we have this UI, which are the shops, right? These UI are simulators. They are UI, but no real UI. Right? They are just emulators of traffic generators. Let's call it in that way. But this travel control is going to tell, okay, I want that the UK shop is going to generate this ratio of traffic with this type of traffic 1, traffic 2, or with this characteristic, and the same way for the Italian shop or the other way for the French shop. This is what it's doing. So basically, we are simulating that because otherwise we will need to create a more complex, but the idea is that we have a more rich number of requests coming from everywhere. So this is different from Bookinfo. In Bookinfo, this is the only, sorry, okay, I have a different, okay. In the Bookinfo, to generate traffic, I need to go to the Bookinfo page and refresh just to really check that, okay, I'm going to review 1, review 2, right? So what we did for this demo is that to create these emulators, traffic generators that emulate this refresh, the same thing that I do here manually, but from this business demo app, I can control the request ratio, and I will see that, you know, that some shop is doing more requests than others. I can see in this Europe map where are the new requests coming from. If I click in one specific, I will see some business information that, okay, the requests that are coming to this city are coming from one shop or to another, just to you know, to give me an idea, okay, that for this city I receive a lot of traffic from the red one, which is the Travel UK, some from the Italian, and the rest from the French. This is the design of this demo app. So yeah, if any details, the demo app is public, and the code is quite easy to follow. Okay. Okay, yeah, let me know if you have more questions. Thank you for asking. It's nice. So and you will tell me, okay, just stop a little bit in the missing cycle. Yeah, that was on purpose, because I guess that when you are learning Istio, just trying to do in an incremental way is a must, or is a logical step. And we wanted to show you how Kiali can detect when something is showing you information or is missing some cycles, and can help you to troubleshooting, right? This is one of the features that Kiali is designed to give you, to provide you this kind of information. But typically what we do is like in the Bookinfo. So what we do is to enable the namespace and redeploy. When I have some experience with Istio, I say, okay, now this namespace, I'm going to enroll the whole namespace into Istio. What I'm going to do is to do by labels, right? So I'm going to repeat that. So on this step, what we want to do is to label the travel agency and the travel portal namespace. Let me go to the, okay, let me close this. Okay. The easiest way, when I label the namespace, the existing workloads are untouched. So what I need to do is to delete the workloads and redeploy. As with this a demo application, is safe to do that. So you can copy and paste the commands to do that. And also when both undeploy, I'm also doing this on purpose to show you how Kiali now is going to see that something is broken. And I wanted to force some errors in the dashboard to show you in the overview and show you in the graph that hey, at some moment, so some namespace and deploy the workloads and show some problems, right? So now I'm going to redeploy the workloads. Here I'm going to, okay, this is my shell. Okay, I read in the chat that Bart is commenting if Kiali can restart the pods. Yes, one by one. If you label, as I did in the first step, I can do that by workload. It's just annotating. When you annotate the controller, automatically Kubernetes is going to update the pods and recreate the pods. Yeah? But probably to do that but that is not happening just labeling on the same feature as not happening labeling the namespace. So this is something that Kiali is not yet automated for that to do that. Okay, I recreated the pods, and now what we are going to see is we still have the console up because the control application I didn't touch it, but you see that it's reset now. Okay, so let me navigate first into the overview. And you see now what is happening. Now, if I filter by the travel, I hope that you can see. Now you see more telemetry for the namespace. If I some basic controls in Kiali, you will see that in Kiali on every page you can select one or many namespace. Right, this is one thing, and probably you will see that in most of the pages you have time controls, a refresh controls, a time controls. As we are collecting telemetry, we can tell Kiali what was the interval of the last interval of time that they want to get, right? I want telemetry for the last minute, and it's okay, but if I take for the last 10 minutes, I will see that, okay, at that moment, I didn't have completely telemetry and I have some problem for some workloads, and I will see some graphic also. And in this time control, I can check the refresh interval, the refresh that Kiali is going to update the information, or if I'm doing something different, remember, like editing a file and I want to pause my page for some reason, I can also do that and to stop refreshing automatically to Kiali, right? This is quite basic on all the pages. Okay, so let's move on. So we can see that all the workloads now have the sidecars. To do that, now we are going to verify if the telemetry is updated. And now if we go to the graph, what we see now. So if I click in the last 30 minutes, I'm going to see some errors because 30 minutes, I didn't have all these workloads in my mess. But if I click in the last minute, I'm going to see a different healthy telemetry, right? To do that. So this is what I can show you. I can focus, for example, in the table INC. I may have different views, the application graph. I can show the service graph. I can show the person application graph. I can show the workload graph. Okay. So, but let's try to start doing something more interesting, or or something more. One thing is that, okay, I can take a first view, but I want to check. I want to query my graph. I want to extract more information, more useful information, right? So as I can tell, Kiali has several options in the display, in the visualization, in the display menu to visualization. One of the interesting could be the request distribution. So you can see what is the request distribution to all the workloads, right? One first thing that we can check, as remember when I was explaining how the travels demo works, is that the shop are simulating that is a new user that is request, okay, give me all the available destinations, right? And this is going to do that to the hotel services. When I have hotels or free hotels seats or rooms, right? Or the availability for the hotels. It shows all the hotels offerings in a first step, and the next step, what is going to, okay, the users, we simulate that the user select one city. Remember, this is what we see, what we see here, that one user can select Luxembourg, and then in this case, the user is going to follow a next step, and is going to query flights, a specific offering for this hotel, insurance, cars, etc. Right? We can see that how these services can access to a discount services to check, hey, I need to apply a discount because this is a request that came from some kind of new offer, and also how all these backend services have a database what they query. So we are going also to show how Istio can work with the database. Okay, so as I commented, one interesting thing is that I can show the request distribution. I can see that I have more traffic for the hotels. I have other options. And if I click into let me to show the service nodes, because I want to show the service in this case. So in this case, I have the workload with the service. If I click into the hotels, I want to get more details on how the hotels are working, right? If I go to the side panel, I'm going to see stats about the telemetry for the inbound traffic, what's the traffic that is receiving, all the outbound traffic which is sending from this workload to other services. But also I have a new tab, which is called the traces. These are the tracing that Istio, the sidecar are collecting. And now one thing that I can do is to overlap a particular trace, a particular request on top of the graph. And I can say, okay, what a particular request is doing. So this request is coming to the travels, and for this particular trace is calling the hotels, the insurance, and the cars, but not flights, because probably this user is planning a travel just without flight, just by car, right? And I can do the same by others. I can see what particular trace that can overlap with my my scenario. Another feature that we can show with Kiali is that we can zoom on a particular application, right? And if, for example, I'm working in a large namespace with a lot of services, and I want to study what is happening with the travels, I can double click in the travels and just focus this one to see with more details. Okay, I'm zooming to this. And we can see how all the traffic is coming to this version and is moving and is confirming that, okay, that from the Travis workload, most of the requests go to the hotels one, right? If I use the contextual menu from the workload, I can access to more details. I can double click and I can navigate into the details of the workload, right? And in the details of the workload, they can tell me what are the pods, what are the services that are in front of this workload, potential Istio config that affects only to the workload, not to the service. And for example, I can see a summary of the traffic, the inbound traffic. I can see the logs of these workloads, you know, destination and the sidecar. I'm going to stop first into the outbound traffic. And in the outbound traffic, I can see that, okay, that the most of the requests, I can see that goes to the hotel service. The others more or less okay. And I can show to do that. Okay, one, as I commented at the in the graph, we can combine the trace to a particular trace in the graph and to combine the telemetry. But also, if I go to the onboard metrics, this correlation between tracing and metrics are available in the chart. So this is the telemetry that Istio is collecting. But if I click on the span duration, I can put together, you know, into the metrics telemetry with how the spans are working, right? And also I can move to the trace tab, and in this trace tab, I'm collecting for this interval the traces that are happening. But what we want to do from Kiali is to tell you, okay, how to give you more information to tell if something is good or not is good. So, and how we do that? We try to correlate that with the Istio telemetry. So when we click in a particular trace, what we do is to, okay, how I know if a trace is okay or not is okay for the business. So this is something that we put this with a heat map of the existing telemetry, and we combine how a particular trace is working with the summary of the telemetry for this interval, and we in a weight of heat map, and it can give you more hints that if how it's happening. For example, this trace is more or less looking green, looking good, that compared with others is in the same average of time. I can go to the span details and see all the spans that are moving. And I can see also in the spans if this particular step of your business trace compared with the other metrics in context are slope or are okay, right? So this is something, the idea is to try to give you more information to interpret, to process all these low-level raw metrics that and signals that Istio is collecting from the sidecast in a way that you can consume it in a more business efficient way. That's what Kiali is doing. Right? Also for the logs. So in this case, we are in the Travis workload, and as commented, typically I'm going to have my application logs, right? And this depends of my developer's domain and how I develop that. But one thing that always I'm going to have in Istio is the Istio sidecar. And probably could be quite handy to see that, okay, this is what my application is doing, but why this particular workload is not working as expected, what the Istio is doing or is not doing. So for example, in this case, I have also capabilities to filter traffic. Let me to see, okay, for example, this city, right? I want to show Prague, okay, this city, and I see, okay, from the application, I have a couple of travel quotes for this city, and I can see all the communication that the sidecar is sending in low level, to help me to understand troubleshooting what is working and what is not working. Okay, so I think that Kiali has a lot of feature in that sense. So the idea is that feel free to review by yourself this scenario. So okay, sorry. Oh, perhaps I miss the connect. I miss. Okay, can you see again my screen?
Yeah, it's back now.
Okay, thank you. For some reason I stopped the sharing. So I think that I'm going to give you 5 minutes to continue doing the observing by your rhythm, your pace, and before that we start with the step number 5. Okay. Okay, so I guess that more or less you get at this point that you install Travel's demo app. You can expose the Travel control. You can start observing and see how the application is working, right? And just to see how Kiali collects all the low-level telemetry, low-level tracing signals, low-level Istio configuration, and is put into you in a way that can help you to identify in a quick view how my application is working, right? Okay, so next step is, next block is more to start browsing in the Istio features, but just trying to do the Istio features using Kiali, right? So this is what we are going to do. So at this point, so is, everyone can work in at your rhythm to do that. So I'm going to follow these steps, but don't be afraid if you take more time or you want to focus in one steps on other for the future. So I guess that everything is very well documented, and probably you can run this tutorial, this workshop at any time. Okay, so let's start by a recursive routing scenario. So now let's imagine that in my travel application, I only have a Travels version 1 workload, and I would like to simulate that I'm going to have other workloads, and I'm going to prepare a scenario when I can show you how Istio can help me to do dynamically routing requests to different workloads in a better, smart way, in a more complex or advanced way. So we are going to deploy the 2 new versions of the Travels application. Okay. I'm going to the travel agency. I can filter. I deploy the travel dash version 2, the travel version 3. Now, if I go to the graph, I will start seeing, that more telemetry. This is something that I want to show you. Let me to see. Okay. Oh, yeah. I have new information. So I'm zooming in the Travels app. That what I see. So now I have a Travels app with 3 workloads: version 1, version 2, version 3. This probably is going to show me what is happening, right? And for my travel shops, again, travel shops are the workloads that are generating this traffic. So this is transparent because it's the travel service which all the traffic is being invoked by a travel service, right? But now, if in this view I unselect the service nodes, what is going to happen? That the service is load balancing to the traffic to all the workloads. From one workload, I will see, okay, I have some 1/3 of the traffic to version 1, version 2, version 3. So it's doing a round robin load balancing across everything, right? So again, if I select the service nodes, this is transparent for my application. This is one of the powerful of Kubernetes. I can put a new workload behind a service, and all the workloads that are invoking these services is transparent, right? But now I would like to show you in this scenario how Istio can help me to tell, hey, now in this case, for testing purposes, I would like to send all the traffic of the French portal into one specific version of the travels workload, and the same for the English, for the English portal, and also in a similar way for the Italian portal, right? To change this distribution. So how to do that, right? This is the situation that I have. And now what I can do is to use, for example, to do that through the application's header. So imagine this traffic, how I know that this traffic is coming from this workload versus others. So I can examine, and Istio give me, Envoy give me the opportunity to examine the HTTP traffic and build a routing, high-level routing traffic, depending of using the application headers. This is what we are going to do in this scenario. So we are going to do to the services one. We are going to open the service details, and we want to create a new request routing scenario, right? And in this request routing scenario, now we are going to create several rules. In the request matching, we want to say, okay, the portal that is coming from the, let me to check, the one from the travel 2K, the portal header, the request that contains HTTP portal headers for the travel 2K, and I'm going to add this match, right? I'm going to route it 100% just only to the first workload, and I'm going to add a rule, right? Let me do, okay, this is one of the rules. And now I want to create another rule, but for the other portal. The portal that is routing to the Italian one, the big.it. I'm going to route to the version 2. I'm at a rule for that. The second thing, the portal that is having requests, HTTP requests to Voyage F, I can add a match, and I want to route it to the Traverse version 3. And I add a rule to that. So you see, this is the headers portal, this travel, this is the request matching. I'm going to send all these request matching to the travel version 1, this other one to the travel 2, and this other one to the travel C, and I can create that. So now what is going to happen, right? If now I select the service nodes, Kiali can tell me, okay, you have in the travels, you have now what's the, okay, yeah, the graph is also detecting that I have a virtual service on this service, right? This one. If I zoom here and I remove the service node, I'm going to see how now the traffic is moving, and Istio is working and it's honoring the request matching. So all the traffic from the Italian portal is being routed to the version 2, and all the traffic for the portal is root to the version 1, and the same for the version 3. But the interesting thing is that this is in a transparent way. So I didn't change the application. So this is something that the application is still calling the service, the same service, and Istio, the sidecars, are configured to do this smart routing to this workload. No? So imagine now that you have detected from the business perspective that, hey, I need a special need for this shop, right? And this shop has more traffic on one area, and I want to enable some new features that I want to test specific for this kind of customer, right? So this is one of the use cases where Istio can help me from a developer perspective to, in a transparent way, to add this smart routing features without modifying anything in my application in a transparent way. And also to show you how I can do that from Kiali, right? In this case, the travel services, what it's doing is, okay, I generated the Istio config for you, and I can show you the YAML that I generated. This is the resulting YAML. So it's just doing the rules with the matching for Travel UK and just updating the way for you, and thing that also can help me. Not only the virtual services, but also the destination rules. In this case, it's just mapping to the workloads, but can tell me, I can see the generated Istio config that I would need to elaborate or to implement this use case, right? Okay, so this is you can also modify and play with these scenarios and try to change more. Yeah, interesting metrics. If I now check the email metrics for this service, no, sorry, for the workloads, that's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you if okay, I can select by remote applications, and I can see that at some point I had all of them, but when I enable, at the point that I enable the Istio config for this the Travels version 1 workload, is when I can confirm that at this moment, right? So the others, these workloads is receiving traffic only for the English travel shop. Okay. Okay, when you are done with this scenario, I think that we can update or test. You can test offline other configuration just to get familiar, or when you are done, we can delete the configuration. So to delete the configuration that are linked with a service, yes, we can click here in the same menu of the wizards. We can update it, the existing one. I can change that, or for example, I can delete it for this scenario, and I will remove this Istio config for this element, and we will see how we go back to the other status. Okay, so yeah, thank you for. We are going to test a new use case for Istio, which is the fault injections comment. So I saw some comment in the chat that some folk was telling about introducing Chaos Monkey. Could be, sorry, I know that Jay is reading all the comments about to monkey testing, something like that. So this is going to be this scenario is going to be in that line. So as we show at the beginning, so is that okay that we identify that the hotel service has a lot of traffic. so it has a lot of load compared with others, right? So also Kiali can tell me about the response time. Okay, I can see, okay, the response time. As this is a demo application, and we have a very powerful cluster supply provided by Google, typically is going to be okay. if I'm in my laptop, probably I cannot run 4 nodes of virtual machines, and the response time could be more slower that I can see here. So these times are pretty good. So the load is quite good. So, but I would like to, you know, at the beginning of this workshop, we detected that this hotel service was having extra load. So it was having, okay, I'm doing a query for all available destinations, and and after I give you the user, I just getting a second query to do that. So one scenario that we want to test is that I can introduce errors on purpose, and I can try to say, okay, I can introduce some kind of errors with statistical probability, or I can introduce delays. Why I should do that? Also to test how resilient or how stable my system could be in this scenario. So this even if this demo is quite small, but you know, I have several services, I have several workloads, and what happens if one of them is failing or is slower than others? How is going to impact that to the others? So this is what we are going to test in this scenario. How to do that? Creating introducing a fault injection scenario. How to do that? How can Kiali help me to perform this scenario? So I can go to the hotel service, which is the service that I want to test. I can click to the actions, and I can say, hey, I want to elaborate a fault injection scenario. I can choose a delay on a board, but in this case, I'm going to work with the delay. I'm going to delay 100% of all the requests that I receive with 5 seconds. Right? So let's do that. That's it. So at this moment, so the mess knows that every request addressed to the hotel service should be delayed by 5 seconds, right? So we are going to see how that is impacted into the system. Okay, we see that we have updated the Kiali is telling me that now I have the hotel service here. Okay, and now it's something that is, if you have to display the response time, you are going to see that the edge has changed with information. So I would like to show you an interesting feature that, okay, when I have a populated graph, how I can see how some workload is slow, or how I can detect or see how the slow is propagated. So this is one. The graph has a powerful feature which is called find and hide. So how to use that? So it's going to allow me to perform some kind of queries. Let's call it queries. It's not really a query, but it's going to filter some elements. For example, I can filter the edges of the graph by, for example, the response time, and I'm going to filter response time, which is more than 1 second, right? Oops, response time, 1 second. And now I'm going to show that. Now I guess that you can get an idea of how the impact of a slow workload can affect to the others workload, right? So I can query the graph, the Kiali graph, to show that, okay, a slope in the hotel workload is okay, everything is green, so nothing is failing because I have a very powerful cluster, but I can see that how it's propagating these latencies into the system, I see that, okay, all the portals has been impacted with this version. Okay, so let's take a more close how to get the details of this metrics. So I guess that I can see into this is also a way that I can show them. Okay, I can show the concept of source destination workload. When I collect metrics, when the Istio collect metrics, right, in a scenario like this, that okay, the travel service is calling to the hotel service. So Istio is collecting telemetry from both sides. It's telling from the travel service is telling to the telemetry, okay, it takes this time to access to query the hotels one, and from the hotels service is also collecting, okay, I received this query and it took me to do that, right? So the telemetry can give me additional information on how the sidecars are working. And this is what we call the reporter. So if I go to the inbound metrics, depending on the source, if I select the reported from source, what I'm going to see here is how is the telemetry from those services that are invoking the hotels. So from this side of the communication, the travel services, when the travel services is calling the hotel services, how much it takes for that. And this is what is telling in this case. So that in this case, we see, okay, that we have the 5 seconds delay, with some cases where the delay could be even detectable. You know, this is the percentiles that I can also change here, the quantiles. I can just to focus on the average. The average is 5 seconds, but I can check that there are some very slow queries that it may happen, right? But from the hotels workload is working okay. So what is happening? Right? The telemetry is telling me that, okay, I'm just responding, the workload is working fine. What is happening here, right? Okay, so what is happening here is a feature of the envoy proxy, right? That the proxy, the sidecar that is injecting this foul injection is the proxy which is collocated to the travels workload. So this proxy is telling, okay, this service, the travel services is invoking the hotels. I do the request, and when I receive the request, I'm injecting at this side the delay. So this is something that is doing. This is what I have different information depending of which report that I'm using to take that, right? Okay, I guess that we have reviewed all of this. So again, these scenarios are quite interesting, quite useful to to check the resilience of the application, to simulate problems in the system. This is quite typical to say, okay, everything is green, so the workloads are still working, but how I can visualize the impact of the delay across my network. This is one of the interesting features that Kiali can make for you, right? Okay, when you are done with this scenario, I can go to the hotels one, and I can delete the Istio configuration. As I promised you, I won't use YAML files to operate with Istio. This is something that I would like to show you with these use cases. And the next thing I would like to show another quite typical use case, which is the traffic shifting, right? Okay, so the traffic shifting is was also a very common scenario, or A/B testing, or some variation about the A/B testing scenario. So let's say that I have an application, for example, like the travels application. I deploy several versions. The version 1 is the old one, the the consolidated one, and the new version 2, so version 2 or version 3 are versions that I want to test. And I want to evaluate which one is working better, right? And a quite easy way. So traffic shifting is a way to tell Kiali. I go to the travel service, I click into the traffic shifting. Sorry, that I want to keep sending the 80% or 60% of my traffic to the version 1, but I want to test something like the 20% between version 2 and version 3, because I want to check to evaluate which of these two versions are working better with all the traffic, right? I can generate that. So this is going to create some rules, some virtual rules with basic weights. It's quite simple scenario. And in the graph, now I'm going to show the service. This is the same, but if I now select the request distribution for the travel service, I will see how, remember, the 60% of the traffic is expected that is going to come to the virtual one, and the other percentage are going to come to version 2, version 3. So what is my goal here? What I would like to do is to answer if which of version 2, version 3 are better, right? Are working better, or if there are some significant version between these two versions to change to one to another. Right? So one thing that is interesting is that in Kiali we bring the logical concept of application. So an application in Kubernetes is not an entity, it's not an element, is basically a logical group using application labels that of a set of workloads and services that are grouped logically. But why this is important from Istio perspective? Because the telemetry is also grouped by application, and that particular grouping can help you in a scenario like this, that I have several workloads for these applications, and in my metrics I can see, okay, now you are showing metric group by remote application, but now I want to change by the local one. I can change in my settings. I can, for example, do the virtual one is the one that I know how it's working. I can deselect this one, and I can just to compare how virtual 2 and virtual 3 are working, which one is working better, or if I need to select if I'm going to do a rollout completely to one or another, right? Compared with the with the original one, I can go to put back the version 1, which is the old version, and I can to do comparison and to try to respond which one could be work better in my scenario, right? So with a traffic shifting scenario. Okay, I think that we show all information. So once that I finish with this scenario, I can go to the actions to delete the traffic shifting. And yeah, let's move to the next scenario, to the TCP traffic. So in this new scenario, I would like to show you how Istio can help you with other services, non-typical services, pure TCP services, like for example, the database, right? So I want to simulate the following. Imagine that you have an application, you have detected the travel agency one. That my my database it may have something in my database that I want to test. You go to your database admin, and your database admin is proposing you, hey, probably we have some tables with without proper indexing, and I would like to test, which indexing could be work better, because it's something we are more in distributed scenario, and I would like to evaluate two potential alternatives. So this scenario is going to show you how I can deploy also two workloads for the database. Okay, I'm going to reconnect. I'm going to to deploy two new workloads for the MySQL database. I'm going to check when the deployments are fully rolled out. Okay, it seems okay. Okay, so now I see that I start to see how requests are balanced between the okay, now I have the version 3, right? So the same A/B testing that I was applying to my application, I can do that with the database. In this case, I may have a similar scenario. I would like to, this is the version 1 was the original database scheme, right? And I can define into the MySQL DB a TCP traffic shifting, where I would like to put the 60% of the traffic into the original version, the version 1, and I can put the 20% of the other traffic to the other one. Oops, I have some problem, I don't know why. Now I can see versions here. Okay. On this case, as this is not HTTP protocol, I guess that I only have the request rate metrics defining here, and I will see how it's distributing between the TCP traffic metric that Istio is collecting by you is distributing for version 1 between version 2 or version 3. If I go to the service, the MySQL service, I can also filter by the local versions. This is the version 1, how this is working, and I can compare the version 2 and version 3 about that. Okay, see, so on this case, for this scenario, probably I don't have big significant change between one and another, and probably any of two indexes policies could work really well for us, right? Okay, so if you are done with the TCP traffic shifting scenario, so we can just go to Kiali to remove the generated configuration, and let's move to the next showcase. So the next element that we are going to do is the request time up, right? So remember the first fault injection scenario that we were working on? So we were introducing some delay into the hotels, or we put in 5 seconds delay into the hotel service. Yeah, we show that, okay, we slow down all the systems, right? But everything was green, was okay, right? On this scenario, we want to show how we can introduce and we can just to stop this kind of delays, and in some cases we can apply some circuit breaking techniques into the application. It means that probably some workloads may prefer to fail and recover on a slow situation rather than propagate a very slow request across all the workloads, because it can impact in a worse way the rest of my application. Instead to say to a workload, hey, this is pretty slow, so I will fail, and I can just to recover faster than if I have a very healthy but slow request, right? So this is what we are going to this scenario. So what we want to do in the first step is to repeat again the fault injection that we introduced in the hotel service. So we go to the hotel service, we go to the actions, we introduce a delay here, about 5 seconds, right? So what is going to happen is that if we go to the graph and I show the response times, the hotel services is going to start to run quite slow, and it's going to send 5 seconds as average, or even the double in some requests for everyone that is invoking this like this. And this slowness, as we show on this case, okay, if I query, I will see how all the workloads are impacted by that. But in this scenario, what we want is to okay, so one particular portal cannot accept a delay for more than 2 seconds. In that case, this workload, the Voyage portal in our example, prefer to fail and recover and to send to the user that the application is not available, instead to propagate a 5 or 10 seconds delay across all the systems. So we can do that also with Istio and with on the virtual rule. So let me to show this, how to perform this scenario using Kiali, right? So as the service that is we are going to target is the travels one. We click into the details, and we are going to again to elaborate a request routine scenario, right? On this case, we are going to select the portal header. We are going to create a match to the portal header to the Voyage FR. Right? And in this case, it doesn't matter what we are going to send. We are going to route to all the workloads. But what we want to do in this case is to add a delay of a timeout of 2 seconds to add this rule, right? It's to request matching to all the requests coming to portal to Voyage, okay, route to all the travels with a request timeout of 2 seconds, and I add this rule, right? Next, I need a default rules with requests for any other request. So because the virtual service is working with a list of rules, and the first rule that it matches so it's going to apply. But if it doesn't have any rule, any default rule, you don't know what is going to happen, right? So this is why it's always a best practice is to add in the virtual services a default rule for any other request in case that you have some matching case that is not taking. So I'm going to create that. So what is going to happen now? So the expectation is that now what I expect is that the slow requests are going to be okay for the Italian and the English portal, but at some point the French portal is going to receive fails and going to say, no, this is not okay. Oh, okay, now it's failing, right? Now you can see that it's in red. It's getting some problems. So let's go to this detail, I guess. Okay, now I can see on the edge. If I click on the edge, I can see the error. If I click on the edge, I can see a flag, and the flag is telling me, okay, now I'm going to put in pause to examine better the flags. I can click here in the flag, in the edge, and I can see in the flag tab how Kiali is telling me that this error is happening. Right, I have an error connection because the downstream connection termination, right? So if I go to this application, to this workload, and I try to do the settings by, for example, for the response code, I can see how now I started to. This was when I get my all request, but now I have the new request no longer than 2 seconds, but with error. What that means that that the Istio is telling me, okay, so for some workloads, this delay is to show again this scenario. Okay, so for some workloads, I can accept as slow request, but for this particular workload, it cannot be good, and I prefer to fail sooner, to apply back pressure rather to propagate a slow request that can impact in a worse way in the rest of the system, right? Okay, I can see more details. I can just to get all the details in the trace into the metrics. So feel free to change the scenario to test new things. All the steps are quite straightforward. When you are done, we can, for example, to go to the travel agency. And delete the root, the United configuration. The hotels one. Okay. Okay, so let's go to, now that we are, so I see a lot of activity on the chat, but I cannot read, sorry. So you stop me if I'm running very fast or very slow, or you want me to clarify some topic. So in these scenarios, as we are starting to introduce errors, and we are starting to do resilience technique, retreat techniques, on timeout techniques, just to tell the Istio that the envoy side cache can stop propagating errors and I can apply sequence breakers techniques, right, to fail sooner rather than to propagate some errors across my system, right? So as you know, we have a pretty simple demo. So now we are going to work in a scenario, in a SQL breaking scenario, a little bit more complex, right? And I want to show how I can, to improve these techniques, and I want to apply a real SQL breaker scenario. SQL breaker is that, okay, at some point, I want to close some connections, but I want to allow other connections coming into my scenario, right? So how to start this example? So we are going to deploy a new workload in the travel portal namespace. Which is a more intense, a more heavy load testing workload, right? So now it's deployed. We are going to check if the workload is okay. Now it's deployed. We are going to see. Okay, so now I have the service graph. I have the workload. Okay, and let me to show you the request rate. Okay, now this is the view that I wanted to do because I have several versions. And now I have a load tester, right? If you compare, if you by application, group by application, right? So remember, so I have several versions, but now I'm grouping it by applications. So this new workload from the travel portal is just sending 10 times more traffic than all the three workloads together. So it's just sending overload to the travel agency to do that, right? So I'm in my Google Cloud platform and it's working well because I have 4 nodes, but probably this scenario could give you some problems in your local machine, right? And what we would like to do is to tell something that, hey, I want to slow down this scenario. I want to apply a circuit breaker and to say, hey, I cannot to get all this traffic. I need to limit this capacity. So if I go to the travels applications and I see the inbound metrics, I will see the difference. So this, let me to show that in the last minute. Okay, so this is the request from the load tester. So it's a lot of traffic compared with the traffic that is sending these other shops. So this is what I'm showing that. Now, what I would like, how I can limit this and how I can just apply SQL breaking techniques to do that, right? This is what we are going to show in this new scenario. So again, I can go to the travel service in Kiali, and I can see, okay, a circuit breaker is something that I can apply to any scenario. I'm going to do a traffic shifting as it is. And if I show the advanced options, sorry, I can go to the tab, to the circuit breaker tab, and I can add some kinds of settings, sort of advanced settings in the destination rules to the connection pool, the maximum connections that a workload can handle concurrently. I can define what is the queue of pending requests to allow And I can also to define, how I can modify the consecutive errors before that workload can be, put it outside of the round robin list of the site port, the words of the round robin of the load balancer for this scenario. So this is something that I can do from Kiali, from any of the wizards. Go to the advanced options. Remember, at the beginning of the workshop, we created a gateway. Now we are going to select a circuit breaker, and we can apply it to the travels one. Okay, so what we should expect that at some point. Okay, so let me first to show you what Kiali has generated. I created a first virtual service to distribute the traffic in that. But remember, all the details or the secret traffic features are applying to the traffic policy one. Okay, so let's move to the next step. So if I go to the load balancer, I'm going to see something like this. Okay, that I have some, some requests that are failing with a flags that, okay, the app is in overflows, the circuit breaker is open. This is failing with an error because the circuit breaker is applied into the proxy, but others are going to work okay, right? If I show this into the outbound metrics, okay, I think that I'm going to show this from the load tester, the outbound metrics. No, from the source. Okay, I need to check by, no, not by remote question, by response code. Okay, so I can see how it's working. So I reduce the pressure, so I'm just allowing the request that my connection pool settings are working, but those requests that this connection pool settings cannot get for this particular workload are just returned by error by the cycle. So this is one example of how the circuit breaker is working, right? Okay, so we can just do, when we are finished with this scenario, we can to go to the travels one. I can delete traffic. Okay. Okay, so the last step of this block of the connectivity is the mirroring one. So the mirroring is a particular scenario similar to the traffic system, but I can just copy a request of the services and to route to a mirror workload instead to put it out of the band, right? You can go to the services one, and I can go to the travel one, and at some point I can just to repeat the traffic shifting, and I can say, okay, so imagine that that I want to to consider that the version 3 of the Traverse is pure experimental, okay? And I want to take, okay, how I can to test this this workload, this pure experimental workload, in a non-intrusive way in my system, right? So it's one pattern is to put it like a mirror, right? Clicking in the mirror icon, and I can tell to the sidecar, okay, now I want to distribute just 50% of the total of the official request, let's call it in that way, okay, from Travel 1, for Travel version 1 and Travel version 2, but I want to mirror 50% of the traffic, you know, to the version 3 for testing a pure experimental way that this request won't be back to the caller, to that. So this is what I can create here, right? At some point in the time. So this travel, if I show the version of the travels, now this one with the service, okay, let me do that. Apologize because I realized that I didn't enable the traffic animation at the beginning of the workshop, which is something that I should do. You know, one of the nice feature of Kiali, you know, is now that I can to simulate the same ratio of the traffic of my edges can be also being animated, right? So now what I define is that this workload is going to be mirror, what means that that official traffic is going to be let me to distribute it between this and this other, and this traffic is going just to be mirrored to get, let me say to that, okay. How I can just to show that all the traffic is going to be routed by version 1 and version 2, but I will use as a version 3 like a non-intrusive mirror that I'm going to copy 50% of the request to this other mirror for testing purposes. Okay, when we are finished, we can just to delete the configuration. So I know that we are late. We are just finishing the complete tutorial. So with this step, we are more or less finishing the connect block. It's a long block. I would like also to finish the tutorial with an example of security. So for this last scenario, I would like to show you how powerful can be to combine all the telemetry information that the Istio is collecting with security access that Kiali can provide. Sorry, that the Istio can provide, and Kiali can combine to generate automatically configuration. So one thing that we are going to do is to delete the load tester. So just go to your Cloud Shell. And I'm going to delete this tutorial. Sorry, this workload, the load tester workload. And in some time, this traffic is going to disappear. Okay, why it is not Oh, okay, it's okay. So I guess, okay, now, okay, so probably if you follow me, the load balancer workload has disappeared, right? But now I would like to show you one of the features. I guess that in other Istio conference, they showed that in I can show, okay, this is what I wanted to do. Sorry. I want to show you how I can enable the security flags. And by default in Istio, is securing all the connectivity about that, right? One of the interesting features of security is that Istio allows you to define practically anything about security, right? One of the features that Kiali allows to you is to say, at some point, I would like to look to the current traffic, take a snapshot of all the current traffic, and secure all the traffic with authorization policy rule. So how to do that from Kiali? So I can go to the overview and, for example, go to a namespace. Hey, now generate the traffic policies for me. So if I click here, what Kiali is going to do is to first generate all this Istio configuration. First, to create a deny all rule by default. So anything by default is not allowed to do that. And I'm going to allow just case by case specific workloads. Okay, so as the previous traffic is going to work as usual, right? But now, if I try to redeploy them, the load tester probably, as this new workload is not allowed to access to my mesh, I will expect that is going to show. Okay, let me to see if. Okay, it's deploy, and now. Okay, what I expect is that okay, now I can see. So now, can you see this load tester? So it's failing everything. Why? Because in the previous step, I set up all these security authorization policies for my travel agency based on the current telemetry. But now, when I perform this step, the load tester workload was not part of my regular traffic. So this is a way that can show you how Kiali can easily to help me to draft a more complex security scenario that I can work to do that, right? Okay, and yeah, I guess that's almost is. So and yeah, so if you are here, congratulations. I think we are close to finish the workshop. If you could follow all the steps, I hope that Jay and me we could help you to show you how to understand what Istio is doing. You know, how to not only see, you know, the static part of Istio, you know, but also how Kiali can help you to generate configuration, help you to operate with your Istio configuration, a high-level scenario, how we can just to provide high-level use cases driven with the most common operation that you would perform with the Istio service mesh. And yeah, so if you couldn't follow all the steps, remember all this documentation is public, is available to you. You can perform, run it offline. As I repeated at the beginning, we are in the Istio Slack in the Kiali room, and if you are an all developer like us, we are also using IRC. Okay, thank you.